Rick Rude had the looks,
His henchman, Andre the Giant, has taken care.
Hold it now.
All right.
the charm, and that sharp tongue that made him a hit with fans. His confident walk and seductive stare won ladies over. But behind the scenes, things weren't so perfect. Rick struggled with addiction and personal issues, leading to a sad downfall.
And one has to wonder what kind of match these two are going to fight.
When he suddenly passed away, there were rumors he died from an amputated penis. This left the wrestling world in shock, wondering what really happened to the ravishing one.
I'm so proud of this guy.
Let's dig into the rumors and find out the truth behind his tragic death. Rick Rude's untimely death. On April 20th, 1999, the wrestling world was stunned when Rick Rude was found unresponsive in his home. He was just 40 years old, and the news of his passing spread quickly, leaving fans and fellow wrestlers in shock. Known for his larger-than-life persona, both in and out of the ring, Rude's passing was not just a tragedy, but also a mystery that left many fans and fellow wrestlers in disbelief. The circumstances surrounding his death quickly became a hot topic, with rumors and controversy swirling, adding a layer of intrigue to an already heartbreaking loss. As the wrestling world struggled to come to terms with the void left by one of its most charismatic and influential figures, the conversations about Rude's legacy only intensified. Born Richard Irwin Rude, Rick Rude was nothing short of a wrestling legend. His career, which spanned the 1980s and 1990s, left an indelible mark on the industry. Rude wasn't just another wrestler, he was a showman.
A real sexy man looks like.
A master of his craft who knew how to get under the skin of his opponents and captivate audiences. He made his mark in major promotions like WWE and WCW, where he held prestigious titles such as the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Heavyweight Championship. His in-ring skills and ability to tell a story through his matches made him one of the most memorable wrestlers of his generation. But behind the scenes, the life of Rick Rude was far from the glamorous image he projected in the ring. Like many wrestlers of his time, Rude reportedly used steroids to maintain his impressive physique, a practice that was almost commonplace in the wrestling industry during the 1980s and 1990s. Wrestlers were expected to look larger than life, and the pressure to maintain a superhuman appearance was immense. However, rumors suggest that Rude may have taken these practices to dangerous extremes, leading to speculation that these choices contributed to his untimely death. One of the most shocking claims that surfaced after his death was that Rude had injected Viagra directly into his penis, supposedly to enhance his sexual performance. This bizarre and dangerous practice, if true, could have led to severe health complications. In 2020, former wrestler Ken Patera added fuel to the fire when he appeared on Hannibal TV and shared a chilling account.
2020 that he heard Rick Rude killed himself because he injected a performance-enhancing substance into his penis.
He claimed that just days after Rude's death, Jim Neidhart, a close friend of Rude's, confided in him that doctors had warned Rude that his penis might need to be amputated due to complications from these injections.
He said Rick lost his effing mind because he had to go to the hospital and they were going to amputate his penis.
Patera quoted Neidhart as saying, "Rick just lost his f***ing mind because he had to go to the hospital and they were going to amputate his penis." Well, his penis was the dearest thing to him, so to my knowledge, that's a true story. John Nord, also known as the Berserker, echoed these sentiments in a separate interview in 2022. Nord spoke about Rude's darker side, describing it as a demon that drove him to engage in extreme behaviors. He said, "Rick had that, I guess you could call it demon. He just wanted to get kinky as hell and get numb, and then he would shoot it in his pecker. 1 out of a million guys will do that. That's just very rare. That's the extreme of the extreme." However, the theories and rumors surrounding his death have cast a long shadow over his legacy, leaving fans to wonder about the true cause of his untimely demise. In the months leading up to his tragic passing, Rick Rude's life took a dark turn. He was reportedly involved in a serious automobile accident that left him with significant injuries, further compounding the years of wear and tear his body had endured from wrestling. This accident wasn't just a physical blow. It added to the immense strain Rude was already facing. According to Bruce Pritchard, a member of WWE's creative team, Rude's widow, Michelle, mentioned that he had been suffering from severe chronic pain. To manage this pain, Rude was taking multiple prescription medications, including painkillers. These medications, while necessary for relief, are known to be highly addictive and can be extremely dangerous when not used properly. The official cause of Rick Rude's death was later revealed to be heart failure, brought on by an overdose of mixed medications. Among these medications was gamma-hydroxybutyrate, GHB, a drug primarily used to treat narcolepsy but also notorious for its potential for abuse. The scene at Rude's home suggested a grim reality. Empty prescription pill bottles were found next to his body, indicating that he had been consuming these medications in significant quantities. For many who knew the wrestling industry during the 1980s and 1990s, this revelation was tragic but not entirely surprising. Drug use was rampant in the wrestling world at that time, with many wrestlers turning to substances to cope with the physical and mental demands of their profession. Unfortunately, Rick Rude was no exception to this harsh reality. While the official explanation for Rude's death was an accidental overdose, this did not stop a slew of conspiracy theories from surfacing. These theories range from the plausible to the downright bizarre, each one adding another layer of mystery to the already sensational story of Rude's life and untimely demise. One of the most persistent theories is that Rude's death was not accidental, but rather the result of foul play. Some speculate that Rude, known for his outspoken nature and sometimes controversial practices, may have made enemies in the wrestling world. This theory suggests that someone could have tampered with his medications or even administered a lethal dose to silence him. Although there is no concrete evidence to support this claim, the cutthroat nature of the wrestling industry has led some to consider it a possibility worth exploring. Another theory that has gained traction revolves around the idea that Rude's death was a suicide, driven by the immense physical and emotional pain he was experiencing. Some believe that the combination of his severe injuries, the grueling toll of his wrestling career, and the emotional distress from the accident led him to take his own life. Bruce Pritchard, however, has dismissed these rumors as extremely silly. In his conversation with Rude's widow, Michelle, Pritchard learned that prescription bottles were found near Rude, leading her to believe that his death was an accidental overdose, possibly exacerbated by the injuries from his recent automobile accident. Despite this explanation, the theory persists, fueled by the notion that Rude might have been overwhelmed by the prospect of losing his male organ and the subsequent impact on his identity and career. Despite the tragic and controversial nature of his death, Rick Rude's passing left a deep impact on the wrestling community, fellow wrestlers, fans, and industry. Insiders were heartbroken over the loss of a performer who had made an unforgettable mark on the sport. Tributes flooded in from every corner of the wrestling world, with many sharing stories that underscored Rude's influence and legacy. Bret the Hitman Hart, in his autobiography,
"The Ravishing One had been close friends with Bret the Hitman Hart for years, so when Rude discovered how Vince McMahon had screwed Hart at 1997 Survivor Series,"
described Rude as a loyal friend and devoted family man. Hart's words echoed the feelings of many who knew Rude personally, showing the stark difference between his tough on-screen persona and his genuine caring nature. Tributes from other wrestlers like Rick Martel and Bobby Eaton painted Rude as a man who was deeply respected and admired by those who knew him best. Troubled career.
Here is your winner, Ravishing Rick Rude.
Rick Rude was famous for his over-the-top, arrogant persona in the wrestling ring. He played the part of the ultimate ladies' man, strutting around with a cocky grin and flaunting his good looks. Fans saw him as the guy who could have any woman he wanted, and he leaned into that character with all he had. But behind the scenes, Rude was a completely different person. Despite his flashy, flirtatious image, he was actually a devoted family man.
On the day of his death, Rude took his 8-year-old son to school and hit some golf balls.
He loved his wife deeply and took his role as a husband seriously. In fact, no matter how wild his wrestling character got, there was one thing he never compromised on. He never took off his wedding ring. Even during matches, that ring stayed on, a constant reminder of his loyalty and commitment to his wife. However, Rick Rude's career was a wild ride, full of highs and lows. He was one of those wrestlers who could really get the crowd going, whether they loved him or hated him. Rude had moments where he was on top of the world, delivering unforgettable performances and making a name for himself as one of the most arrogant and charismatic guys in the business. But like any career, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Rude faced his share of challenges and setbacks along the way. Just when it seemed like he was hitting his stride, tragedy struck. During a match against Sting, Rudy suffered a severe injury that nearly ended everything. It was a moment that shook the wrestling world and left fans wondering if they'd ever see him in the ring again. On April 17, 1994, at Spring Stampede, Rick Rude lost his WCW International World Heavyweight Championship to Sting. Just a couple of weeks later, on May 1st, the two faced off again in Fukuoka, Japan. This match would become infamous for the devastating injury that almost ended ended Rude's career. The build-up to the fateful match between Sting and Rick Rude on May 1st, 1994 was nothing short of electrifying. Their rivalry in World Championship Wrestling, WCW, was legendary, filled with intense battles, personal vendettas, and unforgettable moments that kept fans glued to their seats. The paths of these two wrestling titans first crossed in 1991, leading to a series of encounters that would go down in history as one of WCW's most significant rivalries. Their first major clash happened at the Clash of the Champions 14 on November 19, 1991. Rude, with his manager Paul E. Dangerously by his side, challenged Sting for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. The match was intense, with both wrestlers showcasing their incredible skills and athleticism. In the end, Rude emerged victorious, capturing the title and cementing his place as a top contender in WCW. This victory was just the beginning of their heated rivalry. Over the next few years, Sting and Rude would face off many times, each match more intense than the last. One of the most memorable moments in their rivalry came at the Beach Blast pay-per-view on July 18, 1992. In a match billed as a ravishing Rick Rude versus Sting showdown, the stakes were sky high. The bout was brutal, with both men pushing each other to their limits. Sting's resilience and Rude's cunning were on full display, making it a match that fans would talk about for years to come. As the years went by, their rivalry only got more intense. Sting and Rude's matches were always must-see events, drawing huge crowds and generating tons of buzz. Their contrasting styles and personalities made by 1994, the stage was set for another epic showdown. At Spring Stampede on April 17, 1994, Rude lost his WCW International World Heavyweight Championship to Sting. This loss was a bitter pill for Rude to swallow, and he was determined to reclaim his title. The rematch was scheduled for May 1st, 1994 in Fukuoka, Japan, and the wrestling world was buzzing with anticipation. Both men were in peak physical condition, ready to give it their all in the ring. The energy in Fukuoka, Japan on May 1st, 1994 was unreal. Fans packed the arena, buzzing with excitement for the big rematch between Sting and Rick Rude. The tension was thick as everyone knew they were about to see something special. The rivalry between these two wrestling icons had reached its peak, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. As the match kicked off, the crowd went wild, mixing cheers and boos depending on who they were rooting for. Sting, with his famous face paint and high-energy entrance, got a huge cheer. Rude, always the cocky villain, strutted to the ring with his usual swagger, drawing loud boos from the audience. The showdown was set. Right from the start, you could tell this was going to be one for the ages. Both Sting and Rude were in top shape, and their chemistry in the ring was undeniable. They locked up in a fierce tie-up, each trying to overpower the other. The opening minutes showed off their technical skills, with both wrestlers exchanging moves and counters, proving just how good they were. As the match went on, things only got more intense. Sting's high-flying moves and non-stop energy kept Rude on edge, while Rude's sneaky tactics kept Sting on his toes. The crowd was hanging on every move, reacting with gasps and cheers to every close call and big move. A big moment came when Sting nailed a perfect dropkick, knocking Rude to the mat. The crowd went crazy as Sting followed up with a suplex and a flying clothesline, but Rude, always tough, managed to kick out just in time, keeping the match alive. Determined to take control, Rude went back to his dirty tricks. He raked Sting's eyes, blinding him for a moment, and then hit him with a hard knee to the gut. With Sting down, Rude unleashed a series of brutal moves, including his signature Rude Awakening neckbreaker. The crowd held its breath as Rude went for the pin, but Sting, showing incredible heart, kicked out just before the 3 count. Then came the moment that changed everything. Sting, hoping to keep his momentum, climbed to the top rope, ready to hit one of his big moves. Rude, sensing trouble, got to his feet and stood near the ropes. Sting launched himself into the air, aiming to take Rude down with a huge over-the-top rope dive. But what happened next was devastating. Sting didn't realize there was a raised platform right behind Rude. As he flew through the air, Rude instinctively moved to dodge the impact. Both men crashed hard onto the platform and the impact was brutal. Rude landed awkwardly and the pain was instant. He grabbed his neck, clearly in agony. The crowd, shocked into silence at first, began to murmur as they realized something had gone horribly wrong. Sting, seeing what had happened, looked on in horror. Despite the pain, Rude, ever the professional, somehow kept going. He fought through the agony, determined to finish the match. With some help from outside interference, Rude managed to get the win, reclaiming his title from Sting just as planned. The aftermath of the Sting and Rick Rude match on May 1st, 1994, was just as intense as the match itself. Rick Rude's injury during the bout had serious consequences, not just for him, but for the entire wrestling world. This incident left a lasting impact on both wrestlers and sparked a controversy that would be talked about for years. Rude's injury was severe. The landing on the raised platform caused serious damage to his C4 and C5 vertebrae, leading to unbearable pain and immediate concern for his health. Even though Rude pushed through to finish the match, it was clear that his wrestling career was in serious danger. Sadly, the injury was so severe that it eventually forced him to retire from active competition. Rude's wife Michelle later opened up about how much the injury affected him. She shared, "It basically ended that, just killed him. He was a great entertainer and it really hurt him that he couldn't perform. Even at the risk of injuring himself seriously, he'd have tried it again." At just 35 years old, Rude was in the second year of the biggest contract he had ever signed. The injury not only ended his wrestling career, but also crushed his dream of continuing to entertain fans. Adding to the drama was the controversy over the title change. Initially, Rude was declared the winner and regained his WCW International World Heavyweight Championship. But because of the interference that helped Rude win, the title change was later overturned. The championship was given back to Sting, which only made the situation more tense. In interviews, Sting talked about what happened, denying any hard feeling between them. He said, "No, it's not true. When he came back to WCW from the WWF, he walked right up to me and shook my hand. We were friends until the day he died." Even with Sting's reassurance, the incident left a mark on both of them, and that fateful match would always be a part of their legacies. Though Rude's in-ring career ended, he didn't step away from wrestling completely. In 1997, he briefly returned to the spotlight, joining Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW. Later, he went back to the WWF and became a member of D-Generation X with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chyna.
And while DX didn't need Rude, they did benefit from him being at their side.
However, his time there was short, and he soon returned to WCW, where he joined the New World Order NWO and managed his longtime friend Curt Hennig. Legacy and Hall of Fame. Before he became the ravishing Rick Rude, known and loved by millions, his early career was all about hard work, determination, and a natural flair for entertainment. Rude first stepped into the world of professional wrestling in the early 1980s. Before that, he was an accomplished arm wrestler, showcasing his incredible strength and competitive spirit. But it was wrestling that truly captured his heart, giving him a stage where his larger-than-life persona could shine. Rude trained under the legendary Eddie Sharkey, who had also mentored future stars like X-Pac, Bob Backlund, and the Road Warriors. Sharkey's training was tough, but it prepared Rude for the physical and mental demands of wrestling. Rude's first match was in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, MACAW, where he wrestled Joe Lauren to a draw. Wrestling under the name Rick Rude, he started making a name for himself in the regional circuits. It didn't take long for Rudy's natural charisma and athletic skills to catch the eye of promoters. Soon he was competing regularly in Georgia Championship Wrestling and other promotions around Tennessee.
His sculptured physique and unabashed charisma endeared him to the fans.
During this time, Rude began to develop the arrogant heel persona that fans loved to hate. His cocky attitude and impressive physique made him stand out in the ring. Rude's early career saw him facing off against some of the biggest names in the regional circuits. He battled legends like Jerry Lawler, King Kong Bundy, Kamala, and the Midnight Express. These feuds helped Rude sharpen his skills and build a reputation as a tough competitor. His ability to get under the audience's skin and his in-ring talent made him a star on the rise. As Rude continued to climb the ranks, he won several titles in the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA territories. He became the NWA Southern Heavyweight Champion, NWA AWA Southern Heavyweight and Tag Team Champion, and NWA United States Tag Team Champion. These achievements solidified his status as a top wrestler and showcased his versatility in both singles and tag team matches. Rude's success in the NWA led him to World Class Championship Wrestling, WCCW, where he was managed by Percy Pringle, later known as Paul Bearer. In WCCW, Rude's career hit new heights. The promotion left the NWA during Rude's time there, and he became the first ever World Class Wrestling Association, WCWA, World Champion. This was a huge milestone for Rude, marking him as a top-tier talent in the wrestling world. While in WCCW, Rude also teamed up with the Ultimate Warrior, another future WWE legend. Their partnership was a glimpse of the future, as both men would go on to have iconic WWE careers. Rude's time in WCCW was filled with intense rivalries and memorable matches, further proving that he was a rising star in professional wrestling. Rude's success in WCCW caught the attention of the NWA once again, and he returned to the promotion to team up with Manny Fernandez. Together, they won the NWA World Tag Team Championships, adding another prestigious title to Rude's growing list of accomplishments. His work in the NWA showed that he could excel in different roles and adapt to various wrestling styles. By 1987, Rick Rude had established himself as one of the most most promising talents in professional wrestling. His combination of athleticism, charisma, and in-ring psychology made him a standout performer. It was only a matter of time before the biggest wrestling promotion in the world came calling. And in 1987, that's exactly what happened when Rude signed with WWF, starting a new and exciting chapter in his career. Rick Rude's arrival in WWF in 1987 marked a major turning point in his career. With his chiseled physique and magnetic charisma, Rude quickly became one of the most captivating characters in the company. His time in WWE was filled with unforgettable feuds, a prestigious Intercontinental Championship reign, and a lasting impact on wrestling. When Rude made his debut, he was introduced as Ravishing Rick Rude, a name that perfectly captured his arrogant and flamboyant persona. One of his first and most memorable feuds in WWF was with Jake the Snake Roberts. The rivalry kicked off when Rude made advances toward Roberts' wife Cheryl during a televised segment. Rude even had Cheryl's face airbrushed onto his tights, which took the feud to a deeply personal level. The animosity between Rude and Roberts grabbed the audience's attention, leading to a series of intense and hard-hitting matches. Their feud is still remembered as one of the most personal and engaging storylines of that time. Rude's in-ring skills were on full display in his matches with Roberts. He mixed technical wrestling with a brutal, hard-hitting style that made him a tough opponent. His ability to tell a story in the ring, combined with his natural athleticism, made his matches must-see events. This feud not only solidified Rude as a top villain, but also showed his talent for elevating his opponents and creating compelling narratives. In 1989, Rude hit a big milestone in his WWE career by winning the Intercontinental Championship. He defeated the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 5 using some sneaky tactics and help from his manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Winning the Intercontinental Championship was a major achievement, as it was one of the most prestigious titles in WWE. Rude's reign as champion further established him as a top performer. Rude's feud with the Ultimate Warrior was another highlight of his WWE career. Their rivalry featured intense matches and dramatic moments, including their rematch at SummerSlam 1989, where the Ultimate Warrior regained the Intercontinental Championship. Even though Rude lost the title, his performances were highly praised, and he played a key role in helping the Ultimate Warrior reach main event status. The chemistry between Rude and the Ultimate Warrior was undeniable, and their matches remain some of the most memorable in WWE history. Beyond his battles with Roberts and the Ultimate Warrior, Rude also had notable rivalries with WWE legends like Big Boss Man and Roddy Piper. Each feud showed different sides of Rude's character and wrestling skills. Whether he was engaging in mind games with Piper or taking on the law-enforcing Big Boss Man, Rude consistently delivered performances that kept fans hooked on his storylines. Rude's impact on wrestling went beyond what he accomplished in the ring. He was a trailblazer, especially in how he approached his character and promos. His ability to draw heat and keep the audience engaged set a new standard for villains in wrestling. Rude's promos were often provocative and boundary-pushing, but he always delivered them with a charisma and confidence that made them unforgettable. Rude's influence is still seen in many wrestlers who have taken inspiration from his character and style. His dedication to his persona, both in and out of the ring, set a high bar for character work in professional wrestling. However, despite these controversies and his premature retirement due to injury, Rude's impact on professional wrestling is undeniable. His persona set a standard for what it meant to be a heel, and his in-ring talent earned him respect from peers and fans alike. His legacy continues to be felt, with many modern wrestlers citing him as a major influence. Rick Rude may have had a relatively short career, but his contributions to wrestling have ensured that he will be remembered as one of the greats. In 2017, Rick Rude was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame by Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, a man with whom he had shared other legendary matches in WCW.
Not for the obvious reasons like the thousands of people standing here tonight and the fact that I've never done anything like this in my entire life.
Rude's wife Michelle and children, Marissa and Richard Jr., accepted the award on his behalf. Tragically, Rude's other son Colton was not at the ceremony, having died in September of 2016 in a motorcycle accident at the age of just 19. If you enjoyed watching this video and would love to keep exploring more exciting videos like this, then go ahead and click on any of the cards on your screen.